Sal Mineo, The Life, Career, and Murder Mystery, a young star in New York. Sal Mineo was born in New York City in 1939 to Italian immigrant parents. His mother steered him into acting after he got into a little trouble as a kid. By age 16, he was already on Broadway in The Rose Tattoo and The King and I, and in 1955, he made a splash in Hollywood. That year, he played the gentle, outcast Plato in Rebel Without a Cause opposite James Dean, earning his first Academy Award nomination. The image of teen Plato crying "Help me" in the final scene made Mineo a teen idol almost overnight. He quickly became a fixture in 1950s Hollywood. He appeared in movies like Crime in the Streets, 1956, and Somebody Up There Likes Me, 1956, and co-starred with the late James Dean again in Giant, 1956. When the epic Exodus came out in 1960, Mineo won a Golden Globe and received a second Oscar nomination for his performance. By the end of the 1950s, he had 2 Oscar nominations and was one of Hollywood's best-known young actors. Heartthrob turns challenges. Even a Hollywood success story can hit bumps. By the mid-1960s, good roles became scarcer for Mineo. Audiences had seen him grow up on screen, and insiders wondered if he was getting too old for teenage parts. In fact, he openly struggled with rumors about his sexuality, something that in that era could seriously harm an acting career. Mineo never hid who he was, though. He publicly acknowledged being bisexual in 1972 and was already directing a gay-themed play, Fortune in Men's Eyes, back in 1967. Even as roles dwindled, Mineo kept working. He acted on television, charted some hit songs, and even returned to stage work. He tried roles in TV movies and guest spots Columbo, Mission, Impossible, SWT, etc. He also began directing plays, including ones that dealt with sexuality and identity, a bold move for the time. By the 1970s, he was more of a character actor than a leading man, but friends say he embraced the lower profile as a chance to live more freely. P.S. Your cat is dead. A new chapter. In the early 1970s, Mineo's career took another turn. He landed a role in the dark comedy P.S. Your Cat is Dead, a stage play about a burglar and his victim. Mineo liked that it was edgy and a little offbeat, far from the glitzy Hollywood he'd known. In fact, he moved to Los Angeles to direct the play at the Westwood Playhouse, hoping it might revive his career. By 1976, the play was about to open, and Mineo was optimistic. He even found time for a personal life. In the years before his death, he had been engaged to actress Jill Hayworth, his Exodus co-star, although they split after Hayworth discovered Mineo was involved with a man. More quietly, Mineo was in a loving 6-year relationship with actor Courtney Burr, whom he lived with in Los Angeles. In short, Sal Mineo was planning a comeback on stage and was openly living as he chose, a far cry from the closeted image of 1950s teen idols. Even as his early career highs receded, Mineo still cut a charismatic figure in Hollywood. He might look relaxed in this 1973 portrait, but by the mid-1960s his star had already begun to fade. Roles were harder to come by, in part because of rumors about his sexuality and the perception that he was too old for boyish parts. Nonetheless, he kept working, taking on TV, film, and especially stage projects, always refusing to deny who he was. The night of the attack. It was a cool February evening in 1976. Mineo had just finished rehearsals for P.S. Your Cat is Dead at the Westwood Playhouse in Los Angeles. Around 10 p.m., he drove to his apartment building at 8567 Holloway Drive and parked in the courtyard below. A few moments later, as he was exiting his car, something terrible happened. According to neighbors, Mineo cried out, "Help. Oh my God." He was stabbed by an assailant in the carport alley. Despite the horror of the moment, Sal managed to walk a few steps, possibly heading toward help, but then collapsed. His body was found by neighbor Roy Evans, who had heard Mineo's cries and rushed over. Paramedics arrived within minutes, but it was too late. Mineo was pronounced dead at the scene from a massive hemorrhage, A single knife thrust to the heart had ended the 37-year-old actor's life. The crime scene was chilling. Mini-O's wallet and money were still in his jacket pocket, suggesting that theft was not the motive. In fact, detectives noted that everything in his pockets was untouched, even an envelope with cake he'd been carrying. The coroner found that the blade was a heavy military-style knife. In short, it appeared Mini-O had been attacked for reasons unknown. The night's tragedy went immediately beyond personal loss. The murder of a former teen idol became front-page news in Hollywood. Initial investigation and theories. When police arrived, they treated the crime as a homicide. Detectives combed through Mini-O's apartment and personal effects. They even found gay magazines and a pair of leather pants in his closet. Items one officer later said led some investigators to call it a gay murder early on. Mini-O was openly gay, but officials knew that stigma could complicate things. At first, no clear motive or suspect emerged. Investigators interviewed friends and any romantic partners Mini-O had, but each alibi checked out. The LA County Sheriff's Department publicly said they still didn't know why he was killed. Some people began to speculate. Was it a crime of passion or something related to his private life? A few reporters even suggested homophobia might have played a role, since Mini-O was openly gay at a time that was unusual for Hollywood. Others thought it might have been a robbery gone wrong, but that idea clashed with the facts at the scene. Detectives themselves were puzzled. As late as the end of 1976, they still had no definitive answer. Hollywood was left with a mystery, a famous actor slaughtered in a Los Angeles alley, with only rumors and guesses to fill the void. A suspect emerges, Lionel Williams. The breakthrough finally came more than a year later. In early 1977, a 19-year-old pizza delivery man named Lionel Ray Williams came under suspicion. Williams had a long criminal record and had recently been jailed for various robberies. At the Los Angeles County Jail, Williams began to boast that he had committed Mini-O's murder. In fact, fellow inmates and even Williams' own relatives heard him claim credit for the crime. At first, Williams denied it, but detectives took those claims seriously. On further investigation, Williams' young wife told police that on the night Mini-O died, her husband came home covered in blood and said something like, "I stabbed a man." She later told them, "That's the guy I killed," when shown a photo of Mini-O. Detectives pieced together the timeline. Williams had rented a yellow 1971 Dodge Colt that night, and witnesses later identified a fleeing killer in a light-colored car. The victim's wallet had not been taken, so money was not the goal. Williams was arrested and charged with murder. By early 1979, he was brought to trial in Los Angeles, facing the most notorious case of his life: trial and conviction. At trial, prosecutors argued that Williams had attacked Mini-O with the intent to rob to quiet him down, as Williams himself allegedly explained to his wife. They cited testimony that Williams was overheard confessing in jail and even pointed to the yellow car and the knife. The defense highlighted troubling discrepancies. Many eyewitnesses from the scene insisted the killer was a white man with long blonde hair, memories that did not match Williams, who was black and had an afro at the time. One key witness was 9-year-old Monica Merrim, who had been in her bedroom when she heard Mini-O's cries. Monica testified she saw a man running away and said, "He was very white," pointing to his face. The defense also noted that Williams' hair was lightened in jail, but during the murder he was usually seen with dark, curly hair. Despite these questions, the jury convicted Lionel Williams in February 1979. He was found guilty of second-degree murder in Mini-O's stabbing, as well as multiple counts of armed robbery related to other crimes. In March 1979, a judge sentenced Williams to a maximum of 51 years in prison. Appeals followed, but Williams' conviction was upheld. The court record, released years later, would show that Williams had even drawn sketches of the knife and described Mini-O's last moments to investigators. Doubts and controversies. Even after the trial, many people were uneasy. Critics pointed out that every eyewitness at the scene had described a white man, yet Williams was black, a fact that made a compelling alternative theory of mistaken identity. In fact, the original suspect sketch, the man fleeing Minio's car, was a white youth with long blonde hair. It later came to light that this sketch was actually the lead detective running down a memory of someone chasing after the attacker, but it fueled doubt all the same. Journalist Michael Michaud, who would later write a biography of Mineo, noted that early police work focused so much on Minio's sexuality that it turned the investigation in a very different direction. Many felt that the possibility of a random robbery killing a gay actor was harder for people to accept, so rumors and conspiracy theories sprang up. One idea was that it might have been a revenge hit by someone from his past. Lionel Williams himself vehemently denied guilt, saying he had nothing to do with Minio's death. He pointed out that he was driving a different car and involved in other robberies around that time. He also said the police and media had prejudged him because of his race and record. In interviews years later, Williams explained that he repeatedly insisted on his innocence, even coming close to suicide, believing he would never get out of prison. Today, Williams is in his 60s and maintains that he was wrongly convicted. He even worked on a documentary called Unseen Innocence about his case. The film's makers highlight, for example, that the key eyewitness, who was old enough to see clearly, says the killer had blonde hair bouncing in the wind as he ran away, quite unlike Williams's usual appearance. In short, the case remains hotly debated. Reinvestigations and media. Over the decades, Minio's murder has attracted crime writers and documentary makers who hope to shed light on what really happened. In 2018, best-selling crime novelist James Ellroy publicly described how he spent weeks poring over the sheriff's homicide files. Ellroy said he found boxes of reports, but also noted key parts were missing, like crime scene photos. His conclusion was not to exonerate Williams, but to reconstruct the case from the detective's point of view and show how incomplete the official record was. Meanwhile, others wrote books. Michael Greg Michaud's 2010 biography of Mineo drew new attention to the story, and H. Paul Jeffers' 2000 true crime biography Sal Mineo. His life, murder, and mystery remains a detailed account. More recently, the story has been featured in documentaries and podcasts. In 2024, an HBO Max documentary series on Hollywood murders included an episode on Minio's case. Letitia McIntosh produced a film called Unseen Innocence with narrator Omar Gooding, arguing that Williams was wrongfully convicted. Local TV news also covered it. One station noted that Williams only served 11 years of his 51-year sentence, but still insists he's innocent. Through all this media, people have revisited old evidence and even found new witnesses. For example, the person who 25 years earlier was painted as an eyewitness turned out to be the apartment's owner who rushed to Minio's side, not the killer. Each new story keeps the discussion alive. The murder that haunts Hollywood. Sal Minio's killing was senseless, as many have put it, and it left a mark on Hollywood's memory. At Minio's own funeral, his brother-in-law poignantly said, "Nothing, not a person or the passage of time, can take it, his work, away from him." Indeed, his films live on. Rebel Without a Cause is a classic, and Exodus still has Minio's fine performance. But the shadow of his death remains. In 2020, writer Michael Michaud noted that even after 40 years, misconceptions about the case still overshadow Minio's legacy. People on social media and true crime forums often speculate. Was it a random attack? Was Williams innocent? Or was there some hidden truth? Some compare it to unsolved mysteries like the death of Princess Diana. Once a conspiracy theory takes root, it's hard to shake. Sal Minio's life also resonates with ongoing cultural issues. He was one of the first Hollywood stars to be openly gay or bisexual at a time when that was almost unheard of. His murder has been viewed through the lens of LGBTQ history. Many feel his death should not be forgotten in discussions of how gay people were treated. In recent years, some LGBT historians have pointed out that Minio's openness was actually ahead of its time, and that fact makes his murder feel even more painful to fans. What's next? Forensics and justice. Half a century after that night, one wonders if any new evidence could still emerge. In 1976, police did not have the DNA technology we have now. The murder weapon was never found. Williams never led detectives to one on record. There were no photographs of the killer from the scene, only scattered witness descriptions. With no obvious DNA or fingerprints to test, there hasn't been a clear forensic breakthrough. However, advocates like Williams' supporters argue that records and evidence should be re-examined with fresh eyes. For example, the yellow Dodge Colt that Williams had rented that night was noted at trial, but one might ask if it ever got a thorough forensic exam. And although the statute of limitations doesn't apply to murder, it's not clear if any new charges could ever be brought, unless someone else's involvement was proven. Meanwhile, the Unseen Innocence team and others keep pushing for a closer look. Williams himself filed a civil suit in 2024 against the state for wrongful imprisonment. That case, if it proceeds, might force officials to open old files. There are occasional rumors that a cold case detective or a crime lab might dust for old blood or fibers. But as of now, no new forensic testing results have been announced publicly. The case remains unsolved in the eyes of those who doubt the conviction. The true identity of Mini-O's killer, if it wasn't Lionel Williams, is still officially unknown. Remembering Sal Mineo. So where does this leave us? Sal Mini-O's story is a mix of Hollywood glamour, personal courage, and a mystery that never fully went away. It has everything that keeps people interested: a beloved star at his peak, struggles with identity, and a tragic end with unanswered questions. It reminds us how fragile life can be, even for someone who once seemed so destined for success. Today, fans of classic films still watch Mini-O's performances and hope that someday some final piece of the puzzle will emerge. The case has a small but dedicated following, from crime buffs to LGBTQ historians, partly because it taps into timeless themes of justice and identity. Any new development, however unlikely, tends to make headlines. For example, when the Netflix documentary series on Hollywood scandals mentioned Mini-O, people dug through forums and found the old trial transcripts online. And when Lionel Williams published his memoir 51 Years to Life, it reignited debate over whether his conviction was fair. At the end of the day, Sal Mineo is remembered first as an artist. His life and death remind us that history isn't just the dates on a page, it's the stories we keep telling. Whether or not all the facts ever come out, Mini-O's memory lives on, not only for his films, but as a chapter in Hollywood's ongoing story about the unexpected turns fame can take. And perhaps that is the greatest testament to him, that people still care enough to talk about what happened and to hope that justice, in one form or another, might someday be found.